Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together. All right, real quick before we get started on the show, I'm just going to talk about Treeline Academy. You've heard me say it. I can't even tell you how many times. Mark Livesey is treelineacademy.net. That's treelineacademy.net. Sign up. Use the promo code PC2020. Save yourself $20. Can't say it enough. It's awesome, amazing, most comprehensive e-scouting course out there. Check it out for yourself. Sign up. Use promo code PC2020. And now let's get to the show. All right, so I'm sitting here with my buddy, Chad Ryker of the Backcountry Rookies. And Chad, for all those people who don't know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Certainly. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast. First of all, I really appreciate it. And if any conversation you and I get to have is always a good one. So I do appreciate that. We've already had like 45 minutes of troubleshooting and conversation. But so Backcountry Rookies, that was something I started about, I think it was 4 years ago now. And it was really I had just been introduced to podcasts and I really didn't even know what a podcast was. And somebody introduced me to them. And then I got introduced to backcountry hunting at really right about the same time. And I kind of started thinking, well, all these other guys are doing these podcasts and I'm hearing a lot of great information, but I'm not really hearing the questions answered that I want answered. So basically my own thoughts, and my own ideas from the rookie perspective, because I really had no clue about anything backcountry hunting. Didn't even really know what public land was. I was moved from Indiana. I born and raised in Indiana. There's not a whole lot of public land out there. So I didn't know that whole concept either. And so introduced to podcasts, introduced to backcountry hunting through the Randy Newberg type of videos on YouTube and all of that stuff. And I decided to kind of merge the two together and start to learn them at the same time. And that's where the Backcountry Rookies idea came from. And then it was a whole process of learning even how to record a podcast, right? You went through all of that too. And
Absolutely.
It's right. There's hurdles and stumbles and everything else along the way. So anyway, that's it. A few years ago, started it up and here we are today, man.
Grew a fan. You're talking to him now, and I think it's pretty cool. So anyway, welcome back to the show, Chad. It's been a while since we've caught up and had actually a chance to chat on the show. We both got a lot of different life stuff going on, man.
Yeah. Man, I tell you what, I was really looking forward to hearing about your elk hunt. And I'm sorry that I texted you the other day and said how'd it go, and you're like, didn't happen, dude.
Yeah.
So
that's actually
a real bummer, man.
It's a good time to talk about that right now, just so I can get it out there and nobody else has to ask me about it.
There you go.
But
man.
yeah, no, man. Like I told you, there was actually a lot of other things going on where it was up in the air, and I didn't like that too much, and I tried my best to, no matter what, make it happen. And it was almost to the point where you're almost willing it to happen, even though it might not. Mm-hmm. And some family things going on. I had an uncle, and so my cousin was the one I was going hunting with, and so it was his grandfather, and it was ill and had some things going on, and we're like, man, are we going to be able to go, or are you going to have to go? And we didn't want to be in the backcountry if he needed to go and visit with them, on his last time here on Earth. And it was like, okay. So that was tough. And then finally we kind of cleared through that hurdle a little bit. And then the next thing you know, it's like day before I'm supposed to go, my son's super sick. I'm like, honey, maybe we could push it a day or something like that. And talking to my hunting partner. And then the next thing you know, taking my son to the doctor, and then I'm starting to get sick. And I'm like, wow, I could still go. This has happened before. I went to the doctor and got a cortisone shot or whatever and got boosted up enough to where I could go. Well, turns out I got COVID.
Yeah.
And my 10 days of an elk hunt became 10 days of a quarantine. So that definitely ruined that experience for the year. And it was pretty much the
That's
only time
terrible.
I had slotted for
Yeah.
something like that to happen. So
That is terrible, dude. And I've heard it from several people that say it like right up to the minute where they're like, I don't know if I can go. Yeah, that's tough. And you
yeah,
got a patient wife at home too, it sounds like, man, because, I know mine would be like, dude, you're sick. You're not going anywhere.
yeah. Well,
But
she,
instead we're like, nope, I could maybe try.
yeah.
Maybe try.
And the last
Yeah.
elk hunt I was on, it was kind of messed up. My kids got sick while I was gone, and she didn't tell me until I came home. And I was like, "Holy cow, you've been juggling this the whole time." And she's like, "I didn't want to ruin it for you. I knew it was important to you. I had it under control." And luckily, my mom and her mom kind of stepped in as well and helped her out a little bit with the sick kids because thankfully it was only 2 sick kids at that time, and now we've got 3. So I can imagine that would be a lot tougher. But
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. But no, that was my big adventure for the year. That was kind of canceled now. But what about you? What's going on in your realm? I
Man,
saw the whole antelope thing was pretty cool.
the whole antelope thing was pretty cool. And I'll talk about that a little bit, but I don't want to go into too much detail. Like we talked before, I wrote an article for it to submit to a magazine, and I haven't even done a podcast on it on my own podcast, like a recap or whatever. Just because I don't want
Yeah,
to
nobody wants to
take
ruin the
away
article. Yeah.
from the article. But so I'll back up a little bit, and this will kind of lead into what's been going on. But last year, February, I guess, I retired from the Army. And then I took a job. I was I was in San Antonio, Texas at the time. And that was kind of my introduction to the backcountry hunting. And you can understand this most definitely being out there in Illinois. And but the drive and the commute and everything when it's time to go hunting, it makes it very difficult. And it's very logistically like it's strategic, like it's a struggle, right? There's a lot of strategy that goes into it and a lot of prepping and planning and stuff. So when I retired from the Army, I told my wife, of course I'm going to work, and I'm going to get a job, but I really will only take something out west. And I had loads of opportunities out like Washington, D.C. area. I could have went out there and made piles of money probably. And
Not fun.
yeah, dude, but it isn't worth it to me. And I turned all of those down. I had a couple of California things pop up and I turned all that down. And luckily got a couple of opportunities here in New Mexico. And I took one of those. And it put me right in the middle of a very, very good hunting state for Western hunting. And so that was kind of a long lead in to sort of explain what's been going on. Because now that I'm out here, tags and stuff are just way easier to come by, right? You don't have to, there's still application process, but I just got back from 4 days out in the Gila Mountains where I was bear hunting. And that tag cost me, I don't even know what it cost me. Maybe 50 or $75 or 100. I don't know, but not a crazy, it's a resident fee, right? It's a resident price and it's over the counter. So I have opportunity in turkey or, a couple times a year, you can go hunt turkey here over the counter. You can hunt Barbary sheep and stuff over the counter. So it's really pretty convenient to be able to go out and hunt. And so I've kind of made a change where I spend a lot more time out in the wilderness and chasing game. Sometimes not even really chasing. Like this last weekend was, I kind of confused my own mind, I think, because I kept telling myself I was looking for bears because it was bear season. In reality, I should have been scouting for mule deer because I have a mule deer tag in the same unit. So the whole idea was to go out there and scout for mule deer. But then when I got there, I saw a big bear track on the ground and then everything shifted. And I was like, nope, bear hunting now. And I did. So I barely even scouted for mule deer when that's really what I should have been focusing on and not worrying about the bear so much.
But if you got a lay of the land, kind of helps you out anyway,
Yeah.
right? You had boots on the ground. Just
Oh yeah,
remembering the
definitely.
terrain.
Definitely.
How many elk did you see out there though? That's what I want to know. I'm curious.
So that unit isn't a big elk unit at
Okay.
all. And had I gone north, there's elk out there and stuff, but I didn't see any, and I wasn't really focused on looking in their type of areas. But yeah, they're not, that unit that I'm in is it's a little bit too far south for them. The Gila National Forest is very, very well known for having large elk herds. And but that my unit, it's unit 24, which is down near Silver City, and it's at the very southern end of the Gila Mountains. And there's not a big herd of elk down there.
So what you're saying is it's not an Eastman's Blue unit or a blue
No.
label or a blue chip or whatever.
No, not that. And it's not even a very great deer unit, to be honest with you. But if you know me, you've listened to my podcast, and other people have. I'm not chasing 200-inch deer, man.
I just want to hunt, right?
Yeah, man. I've got a little spike coos deer that I have Euro mounted that's sitting behind me over here. I shot him a few years ago with my bow, and who does a Euro mount on a spike? Like I just don't care. Yeah, dude. Like, I just don't really care about trophy quality. I mean, of course I want trophies, and if that was a great deer unit, I would look for a great deer, but it's just an average unit. And like my antelope hunt was that, I'll probably won't draw that again for a long, long time. It was a really, really good antelope unit. It's known for producing very big antelope bucks, and I shot a really, really nice buck. So not quite Boone and Crockett. He was we measured him at the taxidermist, and he was just a shade over 79 inches, which Boone and Crockett is 80. So he was right there.
I mean, that's
he's
big freaking antelope. I saw the horns on him, or whatever you want to call it, but
yeah.
I mean, he looked pretty decent. Like,
He's
if
pretty
I
good.
saw that, and I wouldn't hesitate to shoot that. In fact, if I saw something smaller than that, I probably wouldn't hesitate to shoot that. And I've been building points. So
I told my buddy, so I was out there hunting with my good friend CJ, and CJ knows I'm not a trophy guy, and he's not either. He likes killing good animals, but I told him, I said, okay, this is the, and then I had a couple other buddies out there too, and I told him the scenario is a really good buck on day one. Day two, it's like not, maybe you can take the really off of it, right, and say, okay, a good buck. And day three is, I'm just going to shoot a buck, whatever, for like first buck in the morning. And we had seen a really nice buck earlier in the day, in the morning. Well, I shot mine in the morning, but we had seen, like, right early in the morning, we saw a really nice buck. And we kind of started moving in on him, and he kind of gave us the slip, and we were going to stand there and look around for him a little bit more. And then I can't really say too much about it, but we got a phone call basically that kind of made us have to leave that area and move into a different spot. And once we got over that other spot, there was a really nice buck there too. And it was, like I said, it turned out to be the one I shot, and he was good enough for me, dude. 100%. Like, I saw him pick up his head, and he had those big fat horns on him, and I just said, oh yeah, that's that. You can tell he's big.
Nice.
So
was that your first antelope?
It was, yeah. First antelope. So I got really spoiled. It's kind of hard to draw here. Well, okay. It's hard to draw. I had a rifle tag, and that's hard to draw in those southern units. But you can get a archery antelope tag pretty easy here in New Mexico. Well, a resident can. It's a little tougher for a non-resident. Yeah. But that was a rifle tag, so it was pretty good to have.
No, that's
cool. I ended up shooting him so I lased him at 487 yards, and they were moving away from us a little bit. So by the time I got ready and got the shot and everything up, he was right at like 500. And took the shot, and
that's awesome.
Put him down.
Which rifle did you use?
I have a Proof Research 7 mag. 7 rim mag. It's pretty sweet. I like that rifle.
Is that the one you built for the series?
It is. No, it isn't. And I thought about taking that rifle. That was a 6.5 PRC.
Oh, that's right. It was PRC.
I had just gotten that Proof, and I was really, really excited about it. And it's lighter. The one I built last year for that rifle series, it's a little heavy. It's not like crazy heavy, but this one's way lighter. And I I just wanted to use it. So
Right.
I've got enough in the safe downstairs. I can kind of pick and choose.
Well, that's like, so I've noticed, and I've got like 4 points for Arizona, and I'm
Uh-huh.
starting to realize like I probably won't ever hunt antelope in Arizona. It's
I
just,
doubtful.
I
I'm
mean,
with you, dude. And I still have, I think I have 4 points,
even if you
and
put
I
in,
still have like a 1% or less than 1% draw odd.
yeah, and the thing is like even if you put in for the worst unit in Arizona, I mean, your odds of drawing are still slim to none. And
Yeah,
and
it's tough.
I just I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I put all this money forward and say 27 years from now, maybe, maybe I get to hunt.
Yeah, maybe.
And
Wyoming is a good state to put in for.
so that's what I've been doing. I bought my points last year and I forgot to apply. So
Yeah.
I bought a point this year. And then I just signed up my dad and did a profile for him so he could get a point. And that way
Yeah.
I'd like to try and do that before he gets too old to actually do that. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping instead of archery, I know it'll take more points, like 4 points probably to draw. But I think with a rifle, he's pretty good. He's kind of like you, pretty good shot. So um, hopefully, I can get him within 5 to 1,000 and make it happen.
Yeah. And they're not super tough critters. My first shot wasn't the best shot I've ever made on an animal. And I think so. I forgot to take into account a couple things. I mean, I got excited, right? It happens. And he was walking, and I forgot to factor that in. So I hit him dead perfectly elevation wise. I hit him perfect. But by the time that bullet traveled 500 yards, which there's some time gap there, he had taken a pretty good solid step at that point, and I ended up hitting him back in the hindquarters and broke both of his hindquarters and knocked him down, and he wasn't going anywhere. So we walked up and got much closer to him and finished him off right there, but um, yeah, there was a whole, well, he'll die here in a minute, right? We'll just let him die. And it
Yeah.
was like, no, we're just gonna walk up there and
Yeah.
finish him.
No.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I forgot to take that into account. I was thinking wind, and I'm like, okay, there's not really any wind, and I know I'm good at 500 with the elevation, and I double checked, I dialed, everything was good, and I just didn't even factor in that thing was walking, and so it hit him back. But
You did a pretty good job of hiding that in the pictures, Chad, I gotta say.
yeah, well,
I didn't
that's
see
how it
that in the
is.
gram. Kind of must have cropped
No,
that out a
no,
little
no.
bit, huh?
Yeah, there's no, you couldn't really tell, and the one side was pretty blown out, but the entry wound side was fine. It just a little spot, where it went in, but the other side was blown out pretty good.
So how's the antelope taste? I've never, I
Wonderful.
don't
In
think I've
fact,
ever had it.
I just had it for dinner, man. I made a roast. I had a leg roast, and I put it in the crock pot like you would a beef roast or something. Covered it in some fajita seasoning that I have that I really like, and I rubbed all that stuff on it, and then I just put it in the crock pot and let it sit all day and shredded it up, and I made some tacos and stuff with the shredded meat.
Very
I
nice.
think it's really good. My wife doesn't really like it. She'll usually try. She's not a big wild game eater, but she will always try anything that I make. And she tried it the first time I made tacos with it. She tried it and said, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good." And then right at the end, she said, there's a little game flavor there that there's something there that I
Yeah.
just don't know about." And it's got a wild game. I mean, the things, they walk around in the desert and eat sagebrush and
Right.
sticks and grass all day, right? It's going to have a little wang to it, but I think it's good. I don't do my own I don't process my own meat or any of that stuff. I mean, I can, it's a time thing. We talked about time earlier. And
Right.
so I had a guy here that was able to do it, and I had it back the next day, and it cost me like $70.
That's
And I'm telling
cheap.
you what, dude. Yeah, dude, there's no possible way. When I factor in my own hourly rate that I charge myself, and I'm not doing a whole animal in for $70 and getting it back the next day. I'm going to piddle around with it. It's going to be in the freezer for a month. And, so I took it to that guy, and he did a great job on it. He made breakfast sausage. That's what I was getting to. And the breakfast sausage is phenomenal, man.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm pretty much, I've concluded that like any animal, even if it's got a funk to it or something like that, if you have somebody make breakfast sausage out of it, it's delicious. And
yeah.
And I've got just a little bit of deer meat left over from last year that my wife refused to cook because there was a couple of them that just had a little bit of that twang to it, that gamey flavor. And she's like, "What deer is that? What deer number is that? Is that deer number 2 or deer number 1?" Because I labeled my packages, so she knew, and it was deer number 2, and so she didn't touch it. And so I found it in the freezer, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that." So I think I'm gonna turn it into some brats or some sausage or something like that, something that kind of take away from that flavor. But we hunted hogs one time, and my hog was tough and terrible. And my buddy took it and I'm going to do my own. I'll take it and smoke it and grill it and, throw it on the Traeger and all that. It all tasted pretty crappy. And my buddy went and had his ground into sausage and bratwurst, the whole thing. Just turned it into sausage and bratwurst. And his was gone long before mine was.
Yeah. So when I would hunt them down in Texas, I would take them and have them done. And I would get the shoulders and, the roasts and stuff so that I could put them on the smoker and smoke them. And then usually the rest was all done into breakfast sausage. And that's just the way I would do wild hogs.
Yeah.
I'd keep the tenderloins too, I guess. A lot of times bacon wrap those. And
pretty tough though. Like I thought the tenderloins would be great, right? Slow cooking them, low and slow and all that kind of. They were not good. They were pretty tough.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine were pretty good when I had them done. But
maybe it was
who knows,
tougher boar or something. Who knows? It was probably too big.
I like to shoot them little ones, dude.
Yeah.
I don't shoot the great big old boars. They look cool in pictures and stuff, but they usually taste terrible. So I'll shoot a smaller one that, like a 30, 40 pound pig is almost perfect.
Yeah.
And that's too young. It's a pig. Who cares?
Yeah. There's a million of them.
And the smaller they are, the better they are. So
yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely I'd like to do that again sometime, except I don't know, man. Texas is pretty tough to go and hunt them without family or something on the property. They'll invite you down there and then charge you when you get there.
Yeah. And that's just that Texas hunting, man. It's really hard to find that public land. That goes back to that original statement I had, man, when I was saying I didn't really understand public land so I hunted when I was a kid in Indiana, we hunted whitetail and stuff and squirrels and whatever, but it was always because my dad had permission from the farmer or the landowner or whoever to go out and hunt out there, so it wasn't like you just wander off on a trail and go hunt public land. Yep. And then I bounced around a little bit with the military. And by the time I started to really get interested in hunting, all my hunting was done in Texas on big ranches out in West Texas, or, I'd pay somebody. When I lived in San Antonio, I had a really cool guy that would let me go out there, and it was like $200. I could hunt a doe and as many pigs as I wanted to. And I would normally go out there and I'd shoot a doe and usually 2 small pigs. And I knew that was enough for me to last a year. And that was perfect. $200. Cool. I was like, well, that ain't bad.
That's pretty cheap, actually.
It really is. Yeah. He was a really good guy, man. And he let me do that every year. I did it for 3 years, I think, while I was out there. Always took home what I wanted, and cool dude. So
that is cool. So I got to ask you, did you end up going on an elk hunt this year?
I didn't. No, I didn't. So I had a tag. I had drawn a Colorado tag, and I ended up turning it back in. A lot of people tell me I'm really stupid for doing that, and
that's their opinion.
It's totally, and everybody's got their own reasons. But I had that antelope tag. I have a bear tag, turkey tag, and I had a deer tag, all here in New Mexico. And if I was going to, basically what it came down to was, one, there was a cost factor. Colorado's not cheap to go hunt. That wasn't the biggest part of it. The biggest part was I was really afraid that I was only going to get like 4 days to dedicate to that hunt. And that was pushing it. Really, that's like a drive day and then hunt for about a day and a half, 2 days ish. And then, maybe part of the last day and then have to drive home. And that happened to me last year. So I had an elk tag last year in Colorado, and I just started my new job. I didn't have vacation time built up yet. I didn't have anything. And all I could do was drive to Colorado on the weekends and try to get on an elk. And reality of it was I was hunting by myself, and I probably would have been by myself again this year. And if it's a 3-day hunt and that's all you have, if I didn't have an elk on the ground the first day, the next 2 were pretty much blown, because I wasn't going to be able to, especially that 3rd day, because I wasn't going to be able to pack an elk out by myself in a day. There's no way.
Yeah.
Not in the area where I hunt. And as far as it was about 3 miles to my truck. And I mean, when you're hiking uphill 3 miles, it takes you a few hours to get up the mountain to the area you want to hunt. And then if you've got 100 pounds on your back trying to come down the hill, and you got to make 4 trips. Yeah. And then you're making 4 trips like that. And so before you know it, and that's if you're constantly moving, right? That's no break time, no stop at the truck and refit. It's just go, go, go. You're 24 hours into a pack out if you're doing it that way. So all of that factored in, and I knew this year I just wasn't going to be able to dedicate a week or 10 days like I wanted to. So I turned that back in, and I decided I was just going to focus on my New Mexico hunts that were here local. And then I've got my Coos deer hunt in January too, and that'll be that's my big out of state adventure, I guess. But that's always a cool hunt. So
are you
every year I tell you, hey Luke, why don't you
I
come
know
down? And
I
you're
know
like,
you
yeah,
know what?
maybe one of these days
this
Chad.
year maybe well, not this year, but next year. So 22
we'll see.
Maybe, man. It's
we will see. It's all.
Are you going to military base though, or what? You going to the same spot?
Yes and no. So we have an interesting this year. One of my good friends from Idaho, Ryan Johnson, who's been on my podcast a couple times. He has always wanted to hunt Coos deer, and he's coming down this year for it. He can't hunt on the military base though, so
and neither can I.
I've got my good friend Jeremy, who lives in Arizona, and he helps me whenever we go down there. Him and I link up and hunt together. He can't hunt on base either. So normally what we do is he has his own tags, and he'll just come over and help me hunt on base, and then after I leave, he goes and does his own thing. Well, this year I think we may try to put my friend Ryan with Jeremy, and then excuse me, and then they can go and hunt off base. And then I think Jordan, Jordan, my partner in Backcountry Rookies, I think he might come out for it too. So him and I will likely hunt on base, and then the other 2 guys off. And where we camped at last year was a really cool spot, because it was actually right off of the military base. And so we could all go in the direction we wanted to. We camped like we could throw a rock and hit the gate of the military base, so like if we wanted to, we could drive on base and hunt, and then the other guys could just go straight up the mountain and hunt right there. So
interesting.
We're kicking around ideas. Last year we had to do it that way because of COVID, and the base had shut down all of their recreation areas for camping. So we couldn't camp on base, which was unfortunate, because they have a really, really cool camp spot, and it's got bathrooms, and it's a nice little spot. But we couldn't do that. So if that's opened up this year, we'll probably camp on base, and then those 2 can just go off, on and off as they need. But we'll see. Heck, we may all hunt off base. I don't have any idea yet.
Yeah. Who knows what kind of restrictions will be in place by the time it ends up happening too.
Oh yeah. Probably have to hunt with a mask on or something ridiculous.
The Moo virus or whatever coming through, the new the next variant, of course. But we don't need to get into that.
No. Fortunately, Arizona hasn't been too. I go out there for work occasionally, and it hasn't been. It's nice to go over there, because New Mexico is like locked down, man. And so I go over there. Actually, New Mexico's not that bad anymore.
Probably not as bad as Illinois. So I'm going to throw that
probably
out
not.
there. Probably not as bad as Illinois.
Yeah, it was pretty bad for a while, man. And
Yeah.
then like every other state around us was opened up, and we were still, businesses couldn't open. I was only allowed to go into work like a couple times a day because we had to rotate through people. And it was just a really wild time. And now it's better.
Yeah.
It's either better or people just don't care. I met one of my buddies for lunch out, and I met one of my buddies for lunch, and when I was out chasing bears last weekend, and he came walking. We met at Arby's, and he comes walking in, and I was like, "Oh, you don't have a mask on. We don't have to wear masks here." And he was like, "I don't care, dude." And we were supposed to, I mean, there's a mandate here for it. And he was like, I don't care, man. I'm done with it.
I've noticed,
okay,
in
that's
Illinois,
good. Yeah.
it depends on where you go.
Yeah. Here in Albuquerque, you probably would have gotten thrown out, but down there,
Really?
they weren't.
Man.
They didn't care. Yeah.
Like the further south you go in Illinois, you don't even see people. Like mandates, some reason non-existent down there, which I don't know. I find it kind of nice, especially, after I've had COVID now. What's my concern anymore, But
yeah, right.
Yeah, but yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna get off the COVID.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. Probably good transition.
Yeah. But so I have been seeking out some other type of adventure I could do now. And a guy told me, he's like, "Hey, come on up to northern Michigan and hunt." And I'm like, "Michigan? There's no deer in Michigan," or at least that's what you hear from everybody, right?
Yeah.
That live in like the ag type part of Michigan. And he's like, "Well, northern Michigan's a little bit different. There's a lot of big woods up here, and there's a lot of deer, harder to find, but there's still a lot of deer compared to people up here." And I was like, "Okay." Well, then I started looking into it, and another buddy of mine started talking about this island and a cull, because the island's overpopulated. And I'm like, very interesting. So it turns out that in like the 1950s, there's this island 11 miles off the coast of northern Michigan, in between the UP and Michigan, that totally uninhabited, but like people used to rent it, and there was some conservation group that used to rent it from the state or from the federal government, whatever. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, they took deer and released them. From Pennsylvania, they took whitetails and released like 7 deer. And from them 7 deer, it ended up being like a herd of 500, to where the island couldn't produce enough for those deer to sustain themselves throughout the winter.
Wow.
So then some deer started starving, and people took notice of it. And then they're like, "Hey, we have to do something." So they introduced a cull, and these people, they take a ferry out there, 10 days, kill as many deer as you can with your special tag. Maybe it's 100 guys, 10 days, I think, something like that.
Holy cow.
And they can use a rifle, any weapon, whatever. Well, I was looking into it, and I'm like, that doesn't sound appealing to me. It's kind of cool, but not what I want to do. But I want the experience of the island, being stuck on this island, having to camp there, backpack in, just like you would somewhere else. Turns out you can do that. So you can use that permit is a federal permit that you have to apply for, because it's considered a national park. It's the Great Sleeping Bear Wilderness National Park. But you can go there and hunt it with your archery tag. During your state archery tag, you could take that and go up there and hunt that island during the regular archery season. So it'd be just like hunting on federal land anywhere else. So the idea got in my head, and for some reason, I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I kept thinking about it. And I'm like, that seems pretty cool for the Midwest. Quite the adventure. So I finally figured it out, found a ferry captain and everything to get yourself lined up out there, because I was reading a lot of stuff about it, and last year there wasn't anybody. And you'd actually have to, if you wanted to go out there, you'd have to charter a fishing charter captain. Well, most captains have their boat out of the water by October. So it was kind of one of those things. I'm like, man, that seems like it might be tough, the logistics of it. Well, I've got it all figured out, and I think it's going to happen this month. So that I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be pretty cool.
That's going to be really cool, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot of deer. like 100 guys to shoot as many deer as they can in 10 days.
Yeah. So that's
That's
not
a
what
lot
I
of
want.
deer,
I
dude.
won't be doing that though. Mine will be limited to 1 buck and 1 doe, if I can even take that.
Yeah.
But I've talked to some people that live up there in northern Michigan, and they're like, I've never hunted it. I've always wanted to. One of the guys I was talking to was like, it just doesn't line up with my work schedule. It's harvest time in October, so I can't do that. The season pretty much dictates when I can go and work, and he's like, but I've hiked it, and I've hiked it a lot in the summertime and the springtime. And he's like, I've seen deer in velvet in like June that were some of the biggest deer I've ever seen in my entire life on that island. So now I'm really intrigued.
I'm intrigued for you. I can't wait to hear about that.
But what's cool, and the reason those deer got so populated is there's no natural predators on the island. There was no bears, no wolves, no coyotes, no anything. And they brought the deer over to the island and put them on it. So they have no natural predators.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
They just hang out all day and eat and breed and
browse all over and breed.
Browse around. Yeah, that's pretty neat, man.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited. It's just going to be a mini adventure. I'm thinking it's going to be like a 3-nighter, 4-day total, on the island. And just hopefully I can make something happen. I got a buddy who's probably just as amped up as I am to go and do that. So we'll probably end up doing some podcasts on a daily basis to try and capture the moment,
That'll be cool, man. There you go. That'll be a series that you can do.
Yeah, and he's
a podcast series.
He's kind of like he went on an elk hunt before, but like never done the backcountry aspect of it. Kind of like a car camp with put up a big wall tent and kind of
That's
go
the way
out
to do it
every
right
day.
there, man.
Well, yeah. But so it'll be
That's
different for him because now he's going to be living out of a backpack. But I think it'll be really cool. I think it'll be a cool experience.
Yeah. I've kind of gotten to the point, man, where I just really enjoy setting up a nice camp, and I bought a nice canvas tent last year. I don't remember when. I had it for our January coos hunt last year, though, and man, that thing is nice. I took it out. It's no, it doesn't have a stove. You can put a jack in it and run a stove in it, but I don't. I normally just take a gas can. Like, you're not carrying it anywhere. It weighs like 90 pounds.
Right.
So I just take a gas can, a 20-pound gas can, and then I take a little buddy heater and just run it right there inside, and it's perfect. And like, I took it on this bear hunt. I was by myself, solo, and I'm 6'4", and I can stand up inside of that thing and change my clothes. And the footprint on it is 10 by 14. And I put a cot in there, dude, at a table, and cook food. And I mean, it's comfortable, man. Like, I live comfortably. I don't mind doing the whole super lightweight tent and the backcountry thing, but give me the opportunity to throw some coolers out and set up a nice tent and build a big old fire, and I'll take that any day, man.
So what tent did you end up going with? And I'm curious to ask that because I've got a buddy who was just asking me about that. And I said, I only know one person personally that uses one, and he bought it like a year or two ago, and he uses it on his whitetail camp. So he goes down to Southern Illinois, sets it up, and depending on, like, if he goes second season for shotgun, you're getting almost into December. So he sets up, the stove in it, and he cooks bacon and potatoes and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, man. Absolutely.
But I didn't know what he bought, and I was kind of curious what you got and, how you like it, because I have a buddy who just asked me about that today.
Yep. Mine is a Kodiak canvas.
Okay.
And it's really nice. I set it up by myself. It's a one-man setup. It takes me 10 minutes to set that thing up. It's like I said, it's really, really nice. Jordan has a Cabela's, I think it's called Alanak or something like that. And that thing is it's big. It's a nice big tent, stove jack, big old vestibule, on it. It's a big, big tent. And we've set that thing up before and slept like 6 or 8 people in there, just a big old camp full of dudes. And that's with us. I think we had 6 people in it with a stove.
That sounds miserable to me.
Yeah,
I
it
don't like
wasn't
sharing
great.
tents
Yeah.
because people snore, and depending on what you're
Yeah.
eating, there's all kinds of odors and smells in there.
Oh yeah, man. There's farts galore. We and so I take that Kodiak, and I mean we could probably put 4 people in that thing if we wanted to, but the most I've ever had in it is 2, and that's me and Jeremy when he goes with me. I don't think Jordan's ever camped in it with me. Anyway, and that's 2 bed, 2 cots, one on either side, and then we'll put a big old table in between, and there's enough separation in there to where you could still have 2 cots, a table, and some bags and stuff, and then still throw a camp chair or something in there if you wanted to just hang out.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
it's
did
cool.
did you like when you got it? Did you have to like cut pipes for it, or did you order pipes with it? How does that work as far as like I know my buddy just opted out and just got the kit with like the pieces, and then he went and had to get a bunch of like 3/4 conduit or something like that for the
Yeah, I
poles.
didn't buy any of that stuff, and mine doesn't even have the jack in it.
Okay.
Because I just didn't. You can buy them with a jack in it, I think, and there's a conversion kit if I wanted to, but I knew I wasn't going to do that. I'll tell you one thing I don't like doing is waking up every couple of hours and loading fire and doing all that stuff. When
Yeah.
like I said, it's a base camp thing, and I'll take a 20-pound gas can and a little buddy heater will run for almost, I think it's 7 or 8 days
Oh, that's
in
wow.
that thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not like I don't even care about the stove jack because I'm not packing that thing anywhere where I need to put a stove or
Well,
any
that's
of
what I
that
asked
stuff.
him. I was like, "How are you hauling that stove too?" So we retrofitted a little cargo trailer, and everything like rolls off of it. Because I mean, the
Yeah.
stove that he's got is not like a little stove either. It's not like one of those backcountry like titanium stoves. I looked at it;
Yeah.
it's a flat top stove.
That's the way Jordan's is. I bet he's got the same setup because that one of Jordan's is like 80 pounds for the stove or something, man.
Yeah, it might even be more. His might even be more because he said he goes, I opted for the XL, and it's a heavier gauge because he wanted the heavier gauge because it would hold more heat.
Uh-huh.
So it would like hold retain heat longer when after the
Yeah.
fire went out. And I'm like, holy cow! But he
Yeah.
sets it up all by himself and goes down there and does it. And I'm hoping maybe I'll get the invite. Maybe he'll listen to this and I'll get the invite. But
There you go. Well, the other guy that asked, just mine's a Kodiak canvas, and I highly recommend it. I slept in. My buddy Dan has one, and last year when we were elk hunting, he had his set up, and I was like, man, this is like he had it set up by himself because he was spending like 2 weeks out there. I went out for about 4 or 5 days or something, and I just looked at that and was like, this is like a hotel suite. This is nice, man. And so then we were also hunting with our other buddy CJ, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've got one of those things too, man. Those things are awesome." And the more I started talking to people about them, people were like, "Oh yeah, I love my Kodiak." And so we just kind of I kept looking at them and kept looking at them, and then I finally ended up buying one, and I've been super happy with it. In fact,
nice.
this on this bear hunt, I texted my buddy Dan and was like, "Hey, 4 or 5 days in New Mexico, established spot for a camp. Don't really plan on moving. What tent would you take? Would you like sleep out of the back of the truck?" And he was like, "Don't be stupid. Take your Kodiak." Good call. Good call. And I did, and took it and was happy the whole time. So
No, that's cool. That's cool, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably one of my favorite upgrades that I've made in my gear. And I go through gear pretty fast. Like
Yep.
I'm always trading stuff out and trying something new and selling what I don't like. And some of the stuff I do like, I still sell, and I just try new stuff. And that's one of my biggest things that I've changed recently. Well, in the last year that I really like is that having a nice big tent.
So probably sure beats a bivy sack then, huh?
It does, man. And so here's another thing that I found too, is a lot of times we were going up to Colorado and we kept saying, we're going deep, right? We're going all the way. And we would get out there and we would get set up, and we would end up being in elk like 2 miles away from the trucks. So we were like, well, why don't we just set up a good base camp?
Right.
And we'll bring a lightweight tent with us if we need it. But then we have the comforts of just being a few miles from the truck if we wanted to to just day hunt each day. Then you carry way less gear every day. I recommend that all the time on my podcast. I always tell people, if you're in your first couple of years, stop listening to all these guys that are like professional hunters that have been doing it for 20 years. And they're talking about 15 straight days somewhere. And you're not going to do that. Your first year going out to elk hunt somewhere, you're not going to be that guy. No. It's not going to happen. Like you'll go out, you might do 2 days away from the truck. And then you're like, this sucks. And you end up back at the truck. And I think a lot of guys quit and they give up because of that. And instead, if you just had a nice place to go back to and bacon in the morning and bacon and eggs or whatever for dinner, backstrap for dinner, whatever, you got a nice spot. And I think it keeps people out there longer and it makes the hunt a lot better.
Big morale booster for sure.
Big morale booster. And it brings you back next year too. And so then before you know it, you've got 3 years of experience under your belt. And then you start thinking like, man, maybe I'll take a little tent and I'm going to try that 5 days back and see what happens. But at least you have all of that experience now. You got 3 or 4 years of testing things out and doing whatever, so.
Yeah, no, that's definitely cool, man. I'm looking forward to maybe trying one out one of these days. Who knows? Maybe if I get an invite, I can go out to New Mexico and
I tell you to come to Arizona every year.
Or Arizona, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Come on down. It's there. It's there. That tent's going to be pretty full by now, though. Yeah. That's for sure. We've already got 4 dudes going.
I'm going to have to get my own and bring it.
Yeah. If Jordan comes out, I'll tell him he needs to just bring his Alanac and we'll just do it that way.
That's cool.
Alanac, I can't remember what his is called, but it's a big old tent from Cabela's too, and that thing's nice.
Interesting. It's been good, pretty cool catching up with you and talking to you. Probably a good stopping point to try and wrap her up here. So if people want to find out more about Backcountry Rookies, if they don't already know, and they want to reach out to you or anything like that, where can they find you, Chad?
Everything's Backcountry Rookies. We have decent Instagram page. We're on Facebook. I don't really do Facebook much. We have a private group on Facebook that's called the Backcountry Rookies Nation. I'm terrible at keeping up with it. We have some what are they called, moderators that go in and we try to keep that thing when I built that page originally, I wanted no advertisements, no anything, and just good, clean content on there for people to ask questions and get good answers. It's still, the moderators do a good job of keeping it that way. Occasionally I jump in there and I see somebody like self-promoting their own YouTube series. I'll delete stuff like that. Anyway, so we got that. I have a pretty terrible YouTube page. It's got some reviews on it and some other stuff, and but it's nothing.
There's a Backcountry Cribs on there, I think.
There's a few. Yeah, we did those a few years ago, and I started those. Actually, there's one from Arizona a few years ago, and then I've started to see those pop up more and more. So I think that's pretty neat, and that's a really good way for people to show kind of how they're living out there and. Different setups. And I should have done one at bear camp. I thought about it with that big Kodiak canvas set up and been like, this is how I'm living. And I seriously, man, everything was in there. I had my big coolers. I had all my clothes. I had food for days. It was all just in there, man. So I should have done one, but I failed. We talked before. I've like YouTube is certainly not my thing, man. The videos and the time. Have you ever gotten into dealing with videos and doing YouTube?
Not a whole lot, no.
It's time intensive, man. The guys that are doing the editing and like I said, mine's terrible. I've got some okay videos on there and some good reviews and some decent stuff, but the guys that are putting together these epic videos, God, there's some time that goes into that.
Yeah. I mean, I barely have time to edit podcasts, let alone, you know what I mean?
I know. I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah,
definitely. So what I do, like when I get done with the show, is I drop it in my Google Drive, and then tomorrow morning, not tomorrow, I have one to listen to, but I will listen to those on my run. And then if I hear anything that needs to get edited out, then I know I can go and edit it. But otherwise, I just don't have time to to do. I'm with you, dude. Time is a commodity, man, and I just can't get enough of it for sure.
No, I agree with you, man. It's been good, Chad. But I appreciate it.
That's it, man. Backcountry Rookies everywhere. Just look it up. I think if you Google it, it pops up as one of the top searches on the Google box. So it's out there.
Cool. Backcountry Rookies. Thank you so much for coming on, Chad. It's good chatting with you. Always good to catch up with you and see how you've been.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate the invite. This was a lot of fun.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.